Alright guys, we are back. And we are picking up where we left off. Was it yesterday? So, phase 2's implementation was kind of underwhelming, like we were looking at last time. It kind of didn't get a lot of things like I wished it would have gotten it. But I think maybe it was because, I just asked it to do too much in one go. And maybe I also kind of missed giving it more context on what I actually wanted to implement or design. So we're going to try to fix that now. I've kind of already started. The first thing that I did here off stream was that, first I kind of cleaned up the commands file myself. Which if I can find it here. Yeah, and I kind of didn't like that it added it at this level here. But yeah, basically I kind of fixed this command runner. Actually, we're not using this at all. Sorry, this is something else. Yeah, we gotta delete that. Sorry, this is not what I fixed. This is just leftover from the initial template. Where is that command thing? Yeah, it's in the handlers. So this whole thing, I kind of cleaned it up and came up with like just a simpler pattern for still having like type safe commands here, and just also narrow it down to just to start support personality as a command, status, and help, which basically just lists all the available commands right now. And it's basically type safe all the way down. And as you define a new command, you kind of give it a schema for the kind of input that you expect, and it just validates it automatically. And then when you're kind of like executing it, you automatically get the nice typing here. So that's just kind of like a TypeScript pattern, nothing too crazy. So that's one thing I did off stream. The other thing that I did off stream was I kind of went ahead and told it to update its agents file here, because honestly it was just about the software design philosophy stuff, and I still noticed that it did a lot of TypeScript mistakes, and it started like adding ESLint disable rules like crazy, including like ts-ignore, ts-expect, and it had still like a lot of casting. And I honestly want the agent to be as strict as possible with the types, so it can really do a good job of designing those interfaces in the best way possible. So I kind of like updated the agents.md file to just include, and then what I did was I moved the whole software philosophy stuff to a rule, which I know like rules are kind of like outdated by skills right now, but the nice thing I think about rules is that you can easily just mark them as always apply, and I honestly want this rule to always be applied. Like I kind of want to follow this mantra for anything the agent does, which is just the software design philosophy, right? From that book that I mentioned. So I kind of did that. The other thing that I did was I kind of actually also removed the ElectroDB skill that we had, because I noticed that was just for V2, and there's a V3 version now. I was looking at the changelog, and something's changed, maybe nothing too big, but still I didn't want to have like an outdated skill laying around. So we'll just let the agent do its thing based on the context that 4.5 Opus has, or if we change to Codex. I kind of want to actually now try Codex for the next thing we do, 5.3. I actually haven't tried that one. I've been using Opus 4.5, but I've heard really good things from Codex 5.3, so I kind of want to go for that next. And then the other thing that I told it to do just now, which was running here on this agent screen here, on this agent tab, I'm sorry, I told it to basically fix the current TypeScript type errors that it had, because it did have type errors. So let's see what it did. All type errors have been fixed. Remove this guy. All right, let's just look at the changes. So apparently it wasn't using priming service at all. And the vector store, so this is kind of like not great code, right? I honestly gotta look closer at how the S3 stuff is implemented for vectors, because I haven't worked with that before. It kind of just came up with this interface, but the funny thing here is that it didn't even use it. That's like another major mistake it made. Like if you look for what it's getting exported here, this thing is not used anywhere. Right, it's just the export. So it completely like failed there. But yeah, I'll look closer at this later. Right now, I guess it just fixed the type errors. This I didn't love. Like, what is it doing here? Because it's like, this check to me just seems like pretty lame. It's saying that record can be unknown. B that metadata. What's B? Vectors. It gets a bunch of vectors that are not. So this is incorrectly typed. And this it should just be doing. I'm hoping that. Not sure where that type is coming from, so let's maybe tell it to fix it itself. So one thing I'm noticing here is that from metadata record has record typed as unknown, but from the only call side, I can see that it's always getting called with either the vector metadata type. Sorry, not with the vector metadata type. Is getting called with the document type from the query output vector that metadata. So I think we can just correctly type it by using the type of query output vector that metadata. And for this type of thing, like if it's going to do any type checking, it should be using SOT. So I actually want to make sure that I add that to the agents.md. I think it's getting all of this wrong. I'm gonna have to read the docs on the VectorDB stuff because I'm not sure what it's really doing here. So I'm probably gonna like just like this can't ever be null, right? Or can it? I guess it can. All right, I'm gonna leave it like that because I honestly gotta inspect all of this file closely to see what it really did with the vector stuff. I'm gonna plan to actually do that in a separate agent and use Codex for that. Just so we can verify what it's trying to do here. Because it, like I said, it didn't even use what it exported here. So let me just keep all of this, right? We get rid of those errors for now. I'm gonna keep all of this. All right, and I'm gonna say here, I'm gonna commit this and say fixed vector store types typing. All right, so I think there are more errors now. You still have leftover TypeScript errors on the response generator file, especially around the personality key in generate response. And by the way, I'm gonna try to stick to ElectroDB. I'm gonna give it, a chance. I gotta read the docs closely. I actually watched a talk from the maintainer, on just DynamoDB in general and table design, and honestly, it was pretty good. He seems pretty. He seems really good. And he's trying to incorporate a lot of like cool design ideas into the library. So I think I'm gonna try to give it a try. Um, and just stick to it. I think I just gotta really get deep into the docs just to make sure that I can vet what the agent does in terms of design there, and just go from there. The other thing that I want to do is add tests. I feel like the agent is going to do way better when it can have like a solid, at least some solid unit test. And I think that's going to help it also um, just design code better so it's testable, and kind of account for just making sure that most stuff is kind of like based on dependence, and to make things like easier, have as the least number of mocks as possible, etc., right? Like actual like mocks from like external libraries and all that. We can just dependency inject. That'd be cool. I think that's gonna just help it do better in general. Okay. Okay. Can we also update the agents.md file to talk about how we prefer to use sort for anything that requires schema type checking or checking specific types before actually using them, instead of doing other types of check when necessary, if we're dealing with objects or any more advanced object that needs type checking that may come from external sources that we don't control. And I also want to try to maybe bring Ramda back in and actually like tell it to code in a more like functional programming style. I kind of want to see if there's a skill for that. But the thing with the skill is like it's not going to include it all the time if it doesn't feel like it. And that's not great in my opinion. Yeah, this is for FPTS. Kind of want to see the code for this. Yeah, like yeah, so I just want to kind of see again how these things get executed or included. Yeah, see, so rules with always apply true or specific glops patterns are not migrated. They have explicit triggering conditions that differ from skill behavior. Yeah. Sorry, I was reading that and not actually sharing it. Let me remove some of this dead code that I saw here because I don't think we're gonna need it. Where are we using command runner? I think I just missed that. Yeah, like this thing can just completely go away. I'm not gonna use that now. EMB. Dude, I'm not gonna use this for now. We'll bring it back later if anything. Ritual, we're not using that either. I think we are using this one. Yeah. And I don't like having everything under utils. I think I'm just gonna like, I mean, I'm gonna leave it here for now, but what do I have in time? Sleep. Dude, I'm not using this anymore, right? This one we might use. Where is this thing at? Oh, this is just a skill. Okay. Let's also mention using or preferring utilities from within our source code and SRC utils versus um, other library functions when they overlap. For example, we have stringify, which uses JSON stable stringify. So we we would want to prefer that one all the time over the built-in native JS stringify method. Kind of always also want to make maybe see if there's some good skill for code review and refactor. Yeah, that's not great. Honestly, a lot of like these skills are just kind of plain, you know. I don't know. It's like you could be all day looking at skills sometimes. It's like just instead of just doing the thing that you need to do, which is kind of where I'm at right now. I'm like, dude, okay, I just want to get some base here. I'm gonna scrub the whole list corrector thing. We honestly got it completely wrong. Yeah, the list corrector thing just kind of like wasn't great. It needed more context. I didn't really tell it how I wanted to do it, so not surprised that it got it completely wrong. Okay, so that's that. The other thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna also install Ramda again. I want us to start using more like functional programming patterns. So I'm gonna do that now. Install Ramda here. And I'm also going to upgrade Node. So the current one is 24. What's the LTS? Yeah, 24 is the LTS. So let's do that. I'm gonna use Codex for this. Let's upgrade this repo from node 18 to node 24. Please make sure that you get all of the places that are required, that require changes, to make sure that when we deploy this again to Lightsail, everything still works. Okay, so the other thing, so the thing here is like I should start using work trees, GitHub work trees, because I kind of like would like to start this agent on a subtree. I haven't really done that yet with Cursor here. So let me see, running, I'm gonna look for running, Cursor running, sub agents on Git work trees. It's parallel agents. The feature allows you to run multiple agents locally in parallel or run a single prompt across multiple models at once. Parallel agents running their own work tree alone. Okay. Oh, okay, so I guess you just, where you set that up? Oh, local work tree. Nice. I want to run it off of main. Yeah. I did this locally. Let's do this one work tree main. Okay. So let me see what this would do. When the agent run is complete, click the apply button to apply the agent's changes to your local branch. This is different from the keep button in local agents. If you'd like to see all work trees in your Git repository, you can run the command git work tree list best of n. Use multiple models at once. A powerful feature of work trees is the ability to run a single prompt on multiple models at once. Once you submit a prompt, yeah, they just want you to really burn those tokens, huh? Once you submit a prompt, you will see two cards, one for each model. Click across the card to see the changes they made by each agent. That's interesting. Then click the apply button to apply the changes to your checked out branch. When to use multiple models. Running the same prompt across multiple models is especially useful for hard problems where different models might take different approaches, comparing code quality across model families to find the best solution. Finding edge cases on one model might miss another catches. Benchmarking which model will work best for your specific code base, right? When you run a parallel agent, you will see an apply button. Clicking this button will apply the changes to your checked out branch. The way this process works is as following. When Cursor creates a work tree, all new files and edited files in your primary working tree are brought along the work tree. The only exception is files that are ignored by Git. The agent will perform its work in isolation inside this work tree and potentially make edits to files. When you click apply, we try to cleanly merge those changes in your primary working tree. Okay. If you're applying multiple times, it's on the same. So I'm guessing it could run into merge conflicts, right? Try to merge between multiple options using the native conflict resolution UI. All right, so I'll try with this one because this guy's still running. I want this guy to run. Use codex from main. Let's send it. I mean, it didn't work through, right? Yeah. What do you mean Docker's not running? Yeah, it's not running. Say on Docker and our line on node 24. Let's see what node version. Mm. I guess they changed the Docker command in the latest stuff. I know they added build kit and it's kind of like their new engine or whatever. I haven't been super following up. I just know that at work I actually had to fit like our Docker scripts to kind of like skip build kit for now because we weren't ready for it in different cases. So Docker build T. From that. That's right. It needs to know the context directory. Funny how I went to like a newer TypeScript version. That's fine, by the way. Probably also want to update all this. I want to use TSX instead of TS Node. It's probably a good time for me to like get rid of all of this, right? Just yeah, and I'm really gonna go for Vitest. So yeah, I forgot to move that. Let's just skip that. I don't want to actually run it. get rid of that. I don't want that for sure. I'm not sure why I was changing this here. I think this is just deprecated in later TypeScript versions. I think we're gonna keep this. We're gonna keep this. I think that's fine. Let's do npm run lint. Let's actually also run the bot. See if it actually runs. So it actually ran. I'm gonna do the upgrades now, you know. Upgrade to node 24. Let me do the ramdef thing first. What others? I think, you know, I'm gonna have to like update the like prettier linting, you know, like the linting things. The linting infra. Some other version on ESLint. What else? Types, MS, node, QR code, terminal, Ramda. I think in terms of that, we're good. We might need to update Pulumi like at some point. I'm not gonna do that now though. Let's now also update all of our ESLint and Prettier tooling to the latest version and make sure that we update any configuration for those libraries that we need. So everything works with our current TypeScript version. I kind of want to know if we're using TS Node for anything. I think we are, yeah. So yeah, let's just kind of modernize this again, because this was from my old template. Since we're gonna go the agentic way, I just want to make sure like it has the latest stuff, you know. This thing probably finished, right? Click here to configure a work tree setup, because this will be executed once on every new work tree and configure dependencies or environment variables. Yeah, that's interesting. Does it actually show me what? So one thing I should clarify here is that priming should really only encompass the following. It should go back in time, like I said before, up to 100,000 messages in the past or 6 months, whichever comes first. Create embeddings for each message, store that, and also store the messages themselves in the Dynamo table. And as it stores messages, it should also update the member knowledge base, right? We are storing the member record in Dynamo, and there's a field where we keep track of their latest personality, if you can say it that way. And as we ingest more messages during priming, we should be updating that field to basically have the latest info on the user based on all of their messages, with things like maybe examples of how they speak based on the messages that we are priming. The other thing is that as real-time messages come up, we should also update that summary. Now, we shouldn't update on every message ingest. I think we should also keep track of a threshold for when we want to update that member's latest context, per se, in terms of the personality. So I think we also have to account for that and integrate that into the DynamoDB record model, so the code that primes can actually know when it needs to go ahead and update the memory it has on the user, besides just storing messages in both Dynamo and the vector store. While we are on this topic, I actually started wondering if we even need to store the messages on the DynamoDB side, if we're already storing them in the vector database along with their embedding. I assume that S3 has the ability to not only store the embedding, but also to store metadata besides the embedding, and I'm assuming that that metadata can just be the message itself. So when we do lookups, we can just use, the embedding and get the real message, and that way not have to keep two different stores for messages, I should have said. because because I don't think the bot will really need to fetch messages at all from Dynamo. It's really just using the message store to do vector querying. And this will all tie in when the bot generates responses. The logic for generate responses should mainly look at the latest message where the bot was mentioned, or I should say, the bot will get triggered when it gets mentioned. It will go ahead and read the mentioned message. It will also get the most recent messages from the conversation. So let's say something like the last 50 messages. And it will also have some logic that will go to the vector store, and using the embedding from the mention message, will try to look up the top K messages that relate to that. And then it will include this in all of the context that it uses to generate the response to come up with a message that makes sense. Starting getting dermatitis again on my hand. So let me give it that. Is it doing the oh yeah. So yeah, we're on the legacy. Let's see how well it does here. Yeah, that's the thing with templates, right? It's like they get out of date pretty easily. And honestly, with AI, it's so easy to just like spin up new things, especially like this sort of thing where it's just boilerplate based on the latest setup that the library requires. So when you're doing a greenfield like this, it's actually easier. Might be the same, honestly, for just like a current repo if you're migrating it. To be honest, it does pretty well at this. And then I'm gonna open another agent here just to start doing this other stuff. I'm gonna do it in a work tree. I would also like to update our agents.md file to include a section about preferring functional programming patterns using Ramda. And I would like us not to go really crazy and go all out on functional programming paradigms like the typical apps that you see that use fp-ts, the library. But I would rather us, find an in between for the agents to follow a pattern that's functional and follows the general guidelines and general conventions where, pure functions are preferred, pipes are preferred, data last functions are preferred, currying is used when it makes sense, and those type of things. Because now we have Ramda installed and that is now possible. And it would be nice to also have the agents.md file say that we should try to use Ramda utilities whenever possible when building logic or data parsing or data massaging. And again, all of this while staying type safe with TypeScript. I gotta figure out why I have such a delay with the plugin. I'm not sure if it's because I'm streaming or what. I don't face that in my other computer. See what it's doing. So in this, it's taking a while to run Linten. It shouldn't take that much. I noticed that you used tslint.config, which seems to have been deprecated in the version that you installed. Did you miss actually following the latest pattern there? Also, it used JavaScript. For this, it can use TypeScript now. Like the ESLint config file can now be actual TypeScript. One last thing there is that the ESLint.config file can now be written in TypeScript, but you wrote it in JS. Can you please update that to be in TypeScript? So yeah, we're doing a lot of like grunt work here. Well, the agent's doing it for us, but at some point I was gonna have to update all of these dependencies, and I think that's gonna be a good place for me to be in, just having everything, in a pretty clean space. The next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna, drop TS Node in favor of TSX. I know I could have used Bun for all of this because it was, probably the next big thing, and it would have been nice to test it. But honestly, I wanted to get this out the door as fast as possible, and I didn't want to get super all in into Bond and like the new ecosystem and all that. Because yeah, the agent was probably gonna do everything for me, but I still, I was going to have to kind of understand it. So I kind of read the code that it spat out. Kind of like what I'm having to do with ElectroDB for the new Dynamo ORM. So I wanted to just, not overcomplicate things. Because if not, I'm never gonna like end up shipping what I want to ship, right? Even with freaking agents running. So yeah, it's drawing that freaking balance, right? Wait. You don't need GITI for that. Pretty sure you don't need that, man. Wait. I'm pretty sure you don't need GITI for this. I actually saw you installed it, but I don't see it used anywhere. So I think we can probably do without that, right? That's the thing with this, it kind of like goes crazy. All right, how long have I been going? I know I haven't done much in terms of like making progress with the actual bot again. It's kind of like keeping the freaking garden clean, and I know we're just fucking starting, but how long have I been going for? Like I've been coding all day with work and all this. Bot, bot. So we're at the 1 hour mark. I'll keep going here for a little more. Let's move to try something here. This shit ain't working. I think Prettier broke. Actually, it didn't break. It didn't break. It didn't break. I just had to reload. Yeah, so it just had to load. It is working. Cool. I don't want to see what it asked me here when I about the priming stuff. Priming for real-time images. Where should a full message text live? Source of truth. So I'm actually gonna say it here that for the architecture, we don't really want to like process like anything like on the box itself, like on the on the container, because we might lose messages that way, right? Or like priming a group might like die like right in the middle. So I think we kind of want to do a fire and forget, right? And load that into a queue, right? Um, and probably it can just be a FIFO queue. Sorry, it can be just a normal queue. It doesn't have to be like ordered or anything. And then have process like the actual embedding and storage of the messages via Lambda that just reads off from the queue. That way we can reprocess if things fail, or at least keep them in the queue. So I'm gonna basically tell it that. Honestly, that feels better. I don't think we need to store messages in Dynamo. Like we really only care about the vector search for messages, so the bot can like just do a top K lookup. But that's pretty much it. I don't really think we care about like DynamoDB lookups for messages. We're not gonna do any like app logic with that. The only thing that we want to store there are just like members and groups, because those are really are the only entities that we're kind of tracking right now. Yo, why did it take so much time to just update to TSX? That's kind of crazy. So here's what I'm gonna do. Like I'm gonna let this finish. I'm gonna commit this. I'm gonna then get this work tree into the main tree. I guess you do apply, you do review. Yeah, we kind of already reviewed this guy here. It's like, dude, this skill, like I want to like load in all the time. Same with this one. And it's like, you know. Can you include skills like that? Hmm. It's not loading any skills, right? That agents, skills. Agent skills, my skills, skill.nd. This is taking a while, dude. Why is it so slow? Before we do that, let's actually get this applied. Let me close cursor and open it again to see if it actually picks up the skills. And actually, that's a good time to test if my stream still works. That's why. Yeah. Okay, we're still good. Um, yeah, I was just getting just the alignment of the stream right. Let's see if it actually worked. Nope. So it's saying here that I should go to settings. Cursor settings. Hmm. Shit. No, bro. That did not fix it. But yeah, it was a no cycle thing that's really, really, really slow. I'm gonna actually use our thing from Lifomic for my company, which is Cyclone. I'm gonna use that. But I'll just go to JavaScript. That's fine. It's crazy, dude. It's a couple hours just working on and getting all this shit right. Guess that's fine. Patterns, right? Maybe they fixed it in a new version. All right, so I've been going for what? Probably like hour and a half. Yeah, hour and 40 almost. I'm gonna try to stop it here. Come back tomorrow. I think we at least got this plan, right? Which kind of makes sense. Let's see. Define SQS ingestion event schema and queue publisher service for backfill real time. Refactor priming to page backfill producer that enqueues events and enforces 6-month 100K limits. Implement Lambda SQS consumer for embeddings. Vector writes and member summary threshold updates. Integrate Topgate vector recall. First recent 15 messages into responses generation. Wire M deploy settings and add test observability for queue and summary update behavior. Kind of wonder if it actually like. I don't think it's using any skills here. Show 14 more. Yeah, I was on an old version. Dude. This is going pretty fast now, right? Yeah, I just had to ignore these 2 folders and remove the clone stuff. Actually, you know what? I think we might not even need. This is already being ignored for that one, yeah. So I got this one. Let's maybe end up with just looking at this plan. And one thing that I have for my to-dos here, I'm gonna read up on the ElectroDB docs just so I kind of really get it. Let's look at the diagram here, the mermaid diagram. WhatsApp events, light sail bot process, enqueue backfill in real time. SQS main queue, Lambda ingestion worker, Bedrock embeddings, and S3 vector index. That makes sense. And there's an SQS DLQ, yeah. Trigger message, response generation path. Yeah, the response generation path will do embed and query top K. That makes sense. Yeah. It's gonna get the member summary from the DynamoDB member entity. Yeah. And then it's gonna get the reset 50 from the WhatsApp chat. That makes sense. That's kind of what I was going for. Yeah. I mean, just by looking at this makes sense. Now, in terms of what it actually wrote down here, notes aligned to your decisions. Message text persistent is vector only. No Dynamo message writes in ingestion path. Yeah, I think that's good and it simplifies stuff, right? One less storage thing. Member summary update threshold fixed at every 20. Newly ingested messages per member, so we're gonna have to keep some track of that in Dynamo. Backfill and real-time ingestion both use the same queue event contract and worker logic for consistency. Define SQS ingestion event schema. I mean, it's fine to use the same SQS queue, honestly. That makes sense to me. Because it's just like a single message versus many messages. Refactor priming to page backfill producer that enqueues events and enforces. Yeah, implement Lambda SQS queue consumer for embeddings, vector rewrites, integrate Topgate vector read. Yep. Those make sense to me. Client SQS, yep, queue URLs, batch size and settings. Yeah. So this makes sense to me. I'm gonna go ahead and hit build here. It's building it in the work tree. We'll see how it goes. And I think I'm gonna stop the stream here. I gotta take a break. Gonna eat something and spend some time with the missus. But yeah, guys, I'll come back probably tomorrow to this, see this guy did on this plan. Hopefully it does better. And I have to do to really like get familiar with ElectroDB and like the nuances and the details of the library. So catch you later.